I answered my wife's phone by mistake and heard another man laugh. He's just another broken soldier. They were talking about me. Before we dive deeper, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more stories. The coffee was still hot when I heard the phone buzzing on the kitchen counter. My phone was charging upstairs, and the ringtone sounded just like mine. Without thinking, I picked it up. "Hey, baby," I said, expecting to hear my wife Jessica's voice. Instead, silence. Then a man's voice I didn't recognize. Who is this?" My blood went cold. "This is Jessica's husband." "Who the hell is this?" The line went quiet for a moment. Then I heard him talking to someone else, his hand probably covering the phone. But not well enough. "It's him," the voice said. "Yeah, the husband." Then I heard Jessica's voice in the background, panicked. "Oh my God, Marcus, hang up. Hang up now." Marcus. So that was his name. But he didn't hang up right away. Maybe he thought I couldn't hear, or maybe he was just stupid. What he said next changed everything. "Relax, Jess. He's just another broken soldier. What's he gonna do?" The line went dead. I stood there in my kitchen, holding my wife's phone, staring at nothing. Just another broken soldier. The words echoed in my head like a grenade going off in a small room. 8 years. 8 years I'd been married to Jessica. 8 years since I came back from my last deployment with the SEALs. 8 years of her telling me she understood, that she knew the sacrifices I'd made, that she was proud of me. All lies. I set the phone down carefully, my hands surprisingly steady. That's the thing about military training. Even when your world is falling apart, your body remembers how to stay calm, how to think clearly, how to plan. Jessica was supposed to be at her book club tonight. That's what she'd told me when she kissed my cheek and walked out the door 2 hours ago. "Just going to discuss romance novels with the girls," she'd said with a smile that I now realized was fake as plastic. I walked to the window and looked out at our driveway. Her car was gone, just like she said it would be. But she wasn't reading about fictional romance. She was living it with someone named Marcus. Someone who thought I was broken. My phone started buzzing upstairs. Probably Jessica, calling to see if I suspected anything. To smooth things over with some lie about a wrong number or a misunderstanding. I didn't move to answer it. Instead, I sat down at the kitchen table and thought about Marcus's words. Broken soldier. He'd said it like it was obvious, like it was something Jessica had told him, like it was their private joke. The thing is, he wasn't completely wrong. I had come back different from my deployments. 3 tours in Afghanistan will change a man. You see things, do things, lose friends in ways that civilian minds can't understand. I'd struggled with sleep for months. Had nightmares. Jumped at loud noises. But I wasn't broken. I was a Navy SEAL. We don't break. We bend. We adapt. We overcome. I'd worked through my demons with therapy, with time, with the love and support I thought I had at home. I'd rebuilt myself into something stronger. Apparently, Jessica saw it differently. To her, I was damaged goods. Something to be pitted, not respected. Something to be replaced. My phone stopped ringing upstairs. A few seconds later, it started again. I thought about the man's voice. Marcus. He'd sounded young, confident, cocky. The kind of guy who probably drove a nice car and wore expensive suits and had never spent a day worrying about anything more dangerous than a parking ticket. The kind of guy who would see a combat veteran as broken instead of forged. The phone kept ringing. I could picture Jessica's face right now, probably pale with panic, trying to figure out how much I'd heard, how much I knew. She was probably telling Marcus it was fine, that she'd handle it, that her broken soldier husband wouldn't be a problem. She was wrong about that last part. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to break things or make threats. That's not who I was, and it's not how I was trained. When you're a SEAL, you learn that the most dangerous enemy is the one who stays calm, who thinks before he acts, who plans every move. Marcus thought I was just another broken soldier. He was about to learn the difference between broken and dangerous. The phone finally stopped ringing. The house was quiet again, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the tick of the clock on the wall. Normal sounds of a normal evening in a normal house, where normal people lived normal lives. But nothing about my life was normal anymore. I picked up Jessica's phone again and scrolled through her recent calls. Marcus had called her 17 times in the past week. 17 times that I knew about. How long had this been going on? How many lies had she told? How many times had she kissed me goodbye and gone to him instead? How many times had they laughed about her broken soldier husband? I set the phone back down and walked to the garage. In the back corner, behind some old boxes, I kept a lockbox. Inside was something I hadn't touched in 2 years, a small digital recorder I'd used for mission debriefs back in my active days. Old habits die hard, and sometimes they come in handy. Tomorrow, I'd start gathering intelligence. Real intelligence. The kind that would show Marcus and Jessica exactly what this broken soldier was capable of. But tonight, I had a phone call to make. My old team leader, Chief Petty Officer Mike Torres, lived about 20 minutes away. Mike would understand. Mike would know what to do. Because the one thing Marcus got wrong wasn't just calling me broken. It was forgetting that even broken soldiers have brothers. Mike Torres opened his door before I even knocked. That's the thing about SEALs. We develop instincts that never leave us. He took one look at my face and stepped aside. "Coffee or something stronger?" he asked, leading me to his kitchen. "Coffee's fine." Mike had been my team leader for 4 years. He'd saved my life twice in Kandahar, and I'd returned the favor in Fallujah. When you've bled together, words become unnecessary. He poured 2 cups without asking how I liked it. He already knew. "Jessica?" he asked simply. I nodded. "Found out tonight. Guy named Marcus. They think I'm too broken to be a threat." Mike's jaw tightened. He'd seen what I'd been through coming home, watched me fight my way back to stability. He knew better than anyone that I wasn't broken, just rebuilt stronger. "What do you need?" "Information first. Then we'll see." He disappeared into his den and returned with a laptop. "Marcus got a last name?" I shook my head. "Working on it." Mike cracked his knuckles. "Let's start with Jessica's digital footprint. Social media, email patterns, location data, if she's got it enabled." For the next 2 hours, we worked in comfortable silence. Mike handled the technical side while I focused on behavioral analysis. Jessica's Instagram showed a pattern I'd been too blind to see. Photos at restaurants I'd never been to, tagged locations during times she claimed to be somewhere else, carefully cropped pictures that hid whoever was sitting across from her. "Got him," Mike said around midnight. Marcus Chun, investment banker at Morrison Financial downtown. Married to a woman named Amanda. 2 kids. My blood ran cold. He's married? 3 years. Wife's a pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital. Clean record, no social media drama. Looks like she has no idea. I stared at Marcus's LinkedIn photo. Mid-30s, perfectly styled hair, expensive suit. Everything I wasn't. Everything Jessica apparently wanted instead of the man who'd served his country and come home scarred but alive. "There's more," Mike said quietly. I cross-referenced their schedules. Jessica's book club nights match up with his business trips. When he's supposedly in Seattle or Portland for work, she's at her book club. When he's home, she's home too. The methodical nature of their deception hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't a moment of weakness or a recent mistake. This was calculated, planned, systematic betrayal. "How long?" I asked. "Based on the pattern?" "At least 8 months. Maybe longer." 8 months. While I was working overtime to pay for the kitchen renovation she wanted. While I was planning our anniversary dinner. While I was going to therapy to be a better husband for her. Mike closed the laptop. "What's the play?" I thought about Marcus's wife Amanda, looking at her bright smile and the family photos Mike had found. She deserved to know. But more than that, she deserved proof that couldn't be denied or explained away. I need evidence. Real evidence. Photos, recordings, something concrete. "You want me to call Danny and Rodriguez?" They're both local now. Danny Martinez and Carlos Rodriguez. My old team. Brothers who'd trust me with their lives and expect the same in return. The idea was tempting, but this wasn't their fight. Not yet. This stays between us for now. Mike nodded. "What about confrontation?" You could end this tonight. And say what? I know you're cheating? She'll deny everything. Marcus will disappear, and I'll look like the paranoid veteran who can't handle reality. So we make it impossible to deny. I finished my coffee and stood up. I need to get home before Jessica does. She'll be expecting damage control from that phone call. Mike walked me to the door. Ryan, you know this isn't on you, right? Whatever problems you think you have, whatever struggles you've dealt with, none of that justifies this. I nodded, but part of me wondered. Maybe if I'd been different when I came home. Maybe if I hadn't had nightmares those first few months. Maybe if I'd talked more, smiled more, been the man she married instead of the man war had made me. Stop, Mike said, reading my expression. I've known you for 6 years. You're one of the strongest men I've ever served with. If she can't see that, it's her loss. The drive home took 15 minutes. Jessica's car was already in the driveway, all the lights on inside. She'd probably spent the entire evening crafting her story, preparing for questions I might ask about the mysterious phone call. I sat in my truck for a moment, looking at our house. From the outside, it looked perfect. White picket fence, neat lawn, flower beds Jessica had planted last spring. The American dream wrapped up in suburban packaging. All of it built on lies. I walked inside to find Jessica in the living room, still fully dressed despite the late hour. Her eyes were red, either from crying or stress. She jumped up when she saw me. Ryan, I was so worried. Where were you? Went to see Mike. Needed to clear my head after that weird phone call. She visibly relaxed. Oh, that. I'm so sorry, honey. That was my colleague Tracy's boyfriend. She borrowed my phone at book club because hers died, and he called looking for her. When you answered, he got confused and hung up. Tracy was mortified. The lie came so easily, so smoothly, that for a second I almost believed her. She'd had hours to construct this story, to make it believable. She'd probably even called someone named Tracy to get her to back it up if needed. That explains it, I said. Sorry I worried you. She moved closer and wrapped her arms around me. I love you, Ryan. You know that, right? Standing there, holding my wife while she lied to my face, I realized something important. Marcus was wrong about me being broken, but he was right about one thing. He had no idea what I was capable of. I love you too, I said, and kissed the top of her head. Tomorrow, the real investigation would begin. 3 days of surveillance taught me everything I needed to know about Marcus Chen's routine. He left his Westfield home every morning at 7:15, stopped at the same Starbucks on 5th Street, and arrived at Morrison Financial by 8. Lunch was always at Romano's Italian Bistro, the same place Jessica claimed her book club met. What Marcus didn't know was that I'd been watching from the parking garage across the street, documenting every kiss, every intimate touch, every moment that proved their affair was real. But I wasn't the only one who deserved the truth. Amanda Chen worked the day shift at Children's Hospital, finishing at 4:30 each afternoon. I waited in the hospital parking lot, knowing this conversation would either make me an ally or an enemy. When she emerged from the main entrance, I recognized her immediately from the photos Mike had found. She was smaller than I'd expected, with tired eyes and scrubs that had seen a long day. A pediatric nurse dealing with sick children, the kind of person who dedicated her life to helping others. The kind of person who deserved better than a cheating husband. Excuse me, Mrs. Chen? She turned, immediately wary. Smart woman. Yes. My name is Ryan Foster. I think we need to talk about our spouses. The color drained from her face. She knew. Maybe not the details, but somewhere deep down, she knew something was wrong. I don't understand. Your husband Marcus is having an affair with my wife Jessica. I have proof. Amanda looked around the parking lot like she was searching for an escape route. I can't. Who are you really? Are you some kind of private investigator? I'm a Navy SEAL. Or was. And 3 days ago, I accidentally answered my wife's phone and heard your husband call me a broken soldier. She stared at me for a long moment. You're military? Retired. 3 tours in Afghanistan. Something in her expression softened. My brother was Army. Iraq War. He didn't make it home. I'm sorry for your loss. Amanda leaned against her car, suddenly looking older than her 32 years. I knew something was wrong. Marcus has been different lately. Distracted. Always on his phone. Working late more often. The late nights are with Jessica. I've been watching them. You've been watching my husband? I needed proof. For both of us. I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos I'd taken. Marcus and Jessica holding hands at Romano's. Marcus and Jessica kissing in the parking lot. Marcus and Jessica walking into the Marriott downtown during what should have been his business lunch. Amanda's hands shook as she scrolled through the images. How long? At least 8 months. Maybe longer. She handed the phone back and covered her face with her hands. For a moment, I thought she was going to cry. Instead, she took a deep breath and looked at me with steel in her eyes. What do you want from me? Partnership. They think we're both too weak or too stupid to fight back. Marcus thinks I'm just a broken soldier who can't handle reality. I'm guessing he's told you some version of the same story about me. Amanda nodded slowly. He said Jessica was unhappy, that her husband had PTSD and couldn't give her what she needed. He made it sound like he was rescuing her. The rage that hit me was white-hot and immediate. Marcus hadn't just stolen my wife. He'd painted me as the villain in their love story. The damaged veteran who couldn't satisfy his woman, forcing her to seek comfort elsewhere. What else did he tell you? That you were unstable, dangerous, that Jessica was afraid of you but didn't know how to leave. I closed my eyes and counted to 10. This was worse than I'd thought. Marcus hadn't just dismissed me as broken. He'd made me into a threat, a monster Jessica needed saving from. Do you believe that? I asked quietly. Amanda studied my face. My brother came home from Iraq different too. Quieter, more careful. But he wasn't dangerous, and he wasn't broken. He was just carrying things the rest of us couldn't understand. Your husband is using your brother's memory to justify betraying you. I know. Her voice was steady now, angry. Marcus never served. Never put his life on the line for anyone. He has no right to judge what war does to a person. We stood in silence for a moment. Two people whose marriages were ending for the same reason. Finally, Amanda spoke again. What's your plan? I want them to face consequences. Real consequences. But I need your help. What kind of help? Marcus thinks he's smarter than both of us. He's been careful, covering his tracks, making sure you don't suspect anything. But he's gotten comfortable. Arrogant. And arrogant people make mistakes. Exactly. I need you to act normal for now. Don't confront him. Don't let him know you suspect anything. Can you do that? Amanda thought about it. How long? A week. Maybe 2. Long enough for me to set something up. Set what up? I looked at her carefully. Amanda Chun was tougher than her husband gave her credit for. She was also angry, and angry people could be unpredictable. But I needed her trust. I'm going to arrange a meeting. Marcus wants to believe I'm just a broken soldier who can't handle reality. I'm going to let him keep believing that right up until the moment he realizes how wrong he is. Amanda's smile was cold and sharp. You're going to ambush him. I prefer the term tactical intervention. She laughed despite everything. I'll call you when everything's in place. Until then, can you pretend nothing's changed? I'm a pediatric nurse. I spend my days pretending everything's okay for children who might be dying. I can handle pretending for my cheating husband. We exchanged phone numbers, and I watched her drive away. Amanda Chun was stronger than Marcus realized, just like I was more dangerous than he understood. But the real surprise would come when Marcus discovered that broken soldiers don't fight alone. They fight with their brothers. The text I sent to my old team was simple. Need brothers. Saturday, 1900 hours, Mike's place. Family business. In SEAL culture, family business means everything else stops. No questions asked, no excuses accepted. You show up. By 7 o'clock Saturday evening, Mike's living room looked like a reunion nobody wanted to have. Danny Martinez sat forward in his chair, still carrying himself like the explosive ordnance specialist he'd been. Carlos Rodriguez leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his dark eyes already calculating. Jake Thompson, our former medic, sprawled on the couch, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. These men had saved my life more times than I could count. Now I needed them to help me save what was left of my dignity. Jessica's cheating, I said without preamble. Has been for 8 months. The guy thinks I'm just another broken soldier. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Name? Danny's voice was flat, professional. Marcus Chun, investment banker, married with 2 kids. What's the play? Carlos asked. I'd spent 3 days thinking about this moment, about what I wanted from these men who'd followed me into hell and brought me back out. I want him to understand what he's dealing with. Not revenge, justice. I want consequences that fit the crime. Jake shifted forward. You want us to hurt him? No. I want us to educate him. Mike pulled up Marcus's information on his laptop and turned the screen toward the others. They studied his photo in silence. The perfectly styled hair, the confident smile, the expensive suit that screamed success and privilege. Pretty boy, Carlos muttered. Bet he's never had dirt under his fingernails. Gets worse, I said, and told them about Amanda, about Marcus painting me as the unstable veteran Jessica needed saving from. Danny's jaw clenched. He's using your service against you, making you the bad guy in their story, Jake added. While he plays the hero rescuing the damsel from her dangerous husband, Carlos finished. Mike closed the laptop. So what's the plan? I want to arrange a meeting. Somewhere public, but private enough for a conversation. I want Marcus to see exactly what a broken soldier looks like when he's surrounded by his team. Intimidation? Danny asked. Education? I corrected. Marcus has never faced real consequences for anything in his life. He thinks charm and money solve everything. He needs to understand that some lines you don't cross. Jake rubbed his chin thoughtfully. What about Jessica? That was the question I'd been avoiding. Jessica was my wife, the woman I'd promised to love and protect. Even now, even knowing what she'd done, part of me still wanted to save our marriage. One problem at a time. First, Marcus learns respect. Then Jessica and I have a conversation about truth. And if she chooses him? Carlos asked quietly. Then she chooses him. But it'll be an honest choice, not one based on lies about who I am. Mike stood up and walked to his kitchen, returning with 5 beers. He handed them out in silence, then raised his bottle. To brotherhood. To brotherhood, we responded in unison. Danny took a long drink, then looked at me seriously. Ryan, you know we've got your back on this. But I need to ask, you sure you want to go down this road? Once we're involved, this gets complicated. It's already complicated. Marcus made it complicated when he decided I was disposable. Carlos nodded. Disrespecting one of us is disrespecting all of us. That's how it works. Always has been. Jake agreed. Mike set down his beer. All right, here's what I'm thinking. Romano's Italian Bistro. That's where they meet for their lunch dates. It's public enough to keep things civilized, but private enough for the kind of conversation you want to have. How do we get him there without Jessica? Danny asked. Amanda, I said. His wife. She's going to help us set this up. I explained my conversation with Amanda, how she'd agreed to cooperate, how angry she was about Marcus using her dead brother's service to justify his betrayal. She's military family, Carlos said with approval. She gets it. So Amanda arranges for Marcus to meet her somewhere, but we show up instead? Jake asked. Something like that. I'm still working out the details. Mike pulled out a notepad and started sketching. We need this clean. No witnesses who might misunderstand what they're seeing. No security cameras. No way for Marcus to claim he was threatened or assaulted. Just a conversation, Danny agreed. A very educational conversation. About respect, Carlos added. And consequences, Jake finished. I looked around the room at these men who'd volunteered to stand with me without knowing the details, without asking what it might cost them. Brothers who understood that an attack on one was an attack on all. Marcus thinks I'm broken, I said quietly. He's about to learn the difference between broken and forged. Carlos grinned. Can't wait to see his face when he realizes his broken soldier brought back up. Mike tapped his pen against the notepad. When do you want to do this? Soon. Amanda can't keep pretending forever, and I can't keep watching Jessica lie to my face every day. This week then, Danny said. Wednesday maybe? Middle of the week. Marcus will be comfortable, routine-focused. Wednesday works, I agreed. Jake stood up and stretched. What about afterward? When Marcus goes home to Amanda, when Jessica realizes what happened? That's when the real test begins, I said. Everything else has been preparation. Wednesday is just the opening move. Mike closed his notepad. Then we better make it count. As my brothers prepared to leave, each one clasped my shoulder or shook my hand, silent promises that I wouldn't face this alone. When the door closed behind the last of them, Mike and I sat in comfortable silence. You good with this? He asked finally. Marcus called me broken, Mike. Made Jessica believe I was damaged goods. Turned my service into a weakness instead of a strength. And now he gets to meet the team. Amanda's voice was steady when she called Tuesday evening, but I could hear the controlled anger underneath. It's done. I told Marcus I found some suspicious charges on our credit card and asked him to meet me at Romano's tomorrow at lunch to discuss our finances. He thinks I'm worried about overspending again. He bought it. Completely. He even sounded annoyed that I was bothering him during his workday. Said he'd give me 30 minutes to explain myself. 30 minutes. Marcus Chun was so arrogant, he was putting a time limit on his wife's concerns about their marriage. The disrespect ran deeper than I'd realized. What time? 12:30. Table 7 in the back corner. I made the reservation under my maiden name, Williams. I'd scouted Romano's twice since Saturday. Table 7 was perfect, secluded enough for privacy, but visible from the main dining room. Close to the kitchen exit if things went wrong, but far enough from other diners that our conversation wouldn't disturb anyone. Amanda, once this starts, there's no going back. Are you sure you're ready? A long pause. Marcus spent our entire marriage making me feel small, dismissing my concerns, treating me like a child who couldn't understand grown-up problems. He's been cheating on me for 8 months while I worked double shifts to help pay for his expensive lifestyle. That's not what I asked. Yes, I'm ready. Are your friends coming? My brothers. And yes, they'll be there. Good. Marcus needs to understand that actions have consequences. After hanging up, I called Mike with the final details. The plan was simple. Amanda would leave Romano's claiming she forgot something at work. Marcus would wait for her return, and I'd arrive with my team. No violence, no threats, just a conversation between Marcus and 5 Navy SEALs about respect and accountability. Wednesday morning, I watched Jessica get ready for work with new eyes. She spent an extra 10 minutes on her makeup, chose her most flattering dress, and sprayed on perfume I'd bought her for Christmas. All for another woman's husband. What are your plans today? She asked, kissing my cheek like she had every morning for 8 years. Lunch with Mike and the guys. Probably talk about the old days. She smiled. That sounds nice. You should see them more often. The ease with which she encouraged me to spend time away from home made perfect sense now. Every hour I was with my friends was another hour she could spend with Marcus without questions. I love you, she said, heading for the door. I love you too. The words felt like lead in my mouth. At 11:30, I met my team at Mike's house. We'd all dressed carefully, nice jeans, button-down shirts, the kind of clothes that said responsible civilian rather than dangerous operator. The goal wasn't to intimidate through appearance, but through presence. Everyone clear on the objective? Mike asked as we prepared to leave. Conversation only, Danny confirmed. No physical contact unless he initiates, Carlos added. Stay calm, stay professional, Jake finished. And if he tries to run? I asked. He won't, Mike said confidently. Guys like Marcus don't run. They bluff, they lie, they try to negotiate. But they don't run because running admits guilt. We took 2 cars to Romano's, arriving at 12:20. Through the window, I could see Amanda sitting at table 7, checking her phone. Marcus hadn't arrived yet. At exactly 12:30, a silver BMW pulled into the parking lot. Marcus Chun emerged wearing a tailored suit that probably cost more than most people made in a month. He walked with the casual confidence of a man who'd never faced real consequences for anything. That was about to change. Amanda met him at the door, and I watched them navigate to table 7. Even from a distance, I could see Marcus's body language, impatient, slightly annoyed, checking his expensive watch. He was doing his wife a favor by showing up, and he wanted her to know it. They sat down and ordered drinks. Amanda pulled out what looked like bank statements and credit card bills. Marcus waved dismissively at whatever she was saying, then leaned back in his chair like he was humoring a child. At 12:40, Amanda stood up suddenly, said something to Marcus, and headed for the door. She paused near our table just long enough to whisper, "He's all yours." Marcus remained seated, probably checking his phone or email while he waited for his overly emotional wife to return with whatever she'd forgotten. He had no idea his comfortable world was about to shift on its axis. "Showtime," Mike said quietly. We stood as one and walked toward table 7. Marcus looked up when we approached, probably expecting to see Amanda returning. Instead, he saw 5 men he didn't recognize standing around his table. His face went through several expressions in quick succession: confusion, concern, and finally recognition as he focused on me. "You're Jessica's husband," he said, his voice careful but not quite afraid yet. "Ryan Foster," I said, extending my hand. "And you're Marcus. We need to talk." He didn't take my hand. "About what?" "About the phone call where you called me a broken soldier. About the lies you've told your wife about me. About the 8 months you've been sleeping with mine." The color drained from Marcus's face as my team settled into the empty chairs around his table. We weren't blocking his exit. We weren't holding him prisoner. But the message was clear. This conversation was happening whether he wanted it or not. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," Marcus said, his investment banker training kicking in. "No misunderstanding," I said calmly. "Just consequences." Marcus's hand trembled slightly as he reached for his water glass. The confident investment banker from the parking lot was gone, replaced by a man who suddenly understood he was outmatched. "Look, I don't know what Jessica told you." "But Jessica didn't tell me anything," I interrupted. "I heard it from you. Directly. When I answered her phone by mistake, and you called me a broken soldier." Mike leaned forward slightly. "That was your first mistake, Marcus. Underestimating a Navy SEAL." Carlos nodded. "We don't like it when people disrespect our brothers." Marcus's eyes darted around the table, finally grasping that he wasn't facing one angry husband. He was facing a unit. "Who are you people?" "Team 5, Alpha Platoon," Danny said casually. "Served together in Afghanistan. Ryan here saved my life in Kandahar. I returned the favor in Helmand Province." "Brothers don't forget," Jake added. "And we don't abandon each other." Marcus tried to regain his composure. "This is harassment. I could call the police." "And tell them what?" I asked. "That 5 veterans wanted to have lunch at the same restaurant where you meet my wife? That we sat down at your table to have a conversation?" "You're threatening me." "No," Mike said calmly. "We're educating you. There's a difference." I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table. "These are photos of you and Jessica over the past 8 months. Romano's, the Marriott downtown, that little coffee shop on Elm Street. Should I keep going?" Marcus stared at the phone but didn't reach for it. "What do you want?" "I want you to understand something," I said. "You called me broken. You told your wife I was unstable and dangerous. You painted yourself as Jessica's savior, rescuing her from her damaged veteran husband." "That's not. It's exactly what you did," Carlos interrupted. "And that pisses us off." Danny leaned back in his chair. "See, Marcus, guys like you think military service makes us weak. Like we're damaged goods that can't compete in the real world. You think we're broken toys that beautiful women need to be saved from," Jake added. "But here's what you don't understand," Mike continued. "We're not broken. were forged, tested, proven. I watched Marcus's face as the reality of his situation sank in. He wasn't dealing with one unstable veteran he could dismiss or manipulate. He was surrounded by a team of professionals who'd faced life and death together. "What's your exit strategy, Marcus?" I asked quietly. "My what?" "In business, you always have an exit strategy. A way out when investments go bad. What's your plan here?" Marcus straightened his tie, trying to project confidence he didn't feel. "I'm not admitting to anything. And even if your accusations were true, adults make their own choices. Jessica chose to be with me. Based on lies," Carlos said. "You told her I was dangerous," I continued. "Unstable. A threat she needed protection from. Jessica made her choice based on false information you provided." "That's not how it happened." Danny pulled out his own phone. "Actually, it is. We have audio recordings of your conversations with Amanda. She's been documenting everything since she figured out what was happening." This was a bluff. Amanda hadn't recorded anything. But Marcus didn't know that, and the panic in his eyes told me the bluff was working. "She wouldn't do that. She's military family," Jake said. "Her brother died in Iraq. She understands loyalty and sacrifice. She also understands betrayal." Marcus looked around the restaurant, probably hoping someone would intervene. But we'd chosen our timing carefully. The lunch rush was winding down, and the few remaining diners were focused on their own conversations. "What do you want from me?" he asked again, his voice smaller now. "First, you're going to stop seeing my wife," I said. "Today, no goodbye conversation, no explanation, no final meeting. It ends now. Second," Mike continued, "you're going to tell Jessica the truth. That you lied about Ryan being dangerous. That you manipulated her fears to get what you wanted. Third," Carlos added, "you're going to have an honest conversation with your wife about what kind of man you really are." Marcus shook his head. "I can't do that. It would destroy my marriage." "Your marriage is already destroyed," Danny said bluntly. "You destroyed it when you started cheating. Now you get to decide whether it ends with honesty or more lies." "And if I refuse?" The table went quiet. This was the moment of truth. Would Marcus choose the easy path or the right one? "Then everyone finds out," I said simply. "Your wife, your children, your colleagues at Morrison Financial, your clients who trust you with their money. Everyone gets to know exactly what kind of man Marcus Chin really is." Jake leaned forward. "See, guys like us, we understand consequences. When you make bad decisions in combat, people die. So we learn to think carefully about our choices." "You've been making bad choices for 8 months," Mike added. "Time to face the consequences." Marcus sat in silence for a long moment, probably calculating his options. Finally, he looked directly at me. "And if I do what you're asking? If I end things with Jessica and tell the truth? Then this stays between us?" I said. "You go home to your family. Try to rebuild what you can, and hopefully learn something about honor. But understand this," Carlos said quietly. "If you ever disrespect a veteran again, if you ever use someone's service against them, we'll hear about it. And we'll have another conversation," Danny finished. Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his face went white. "It's Amanda. She wants to know how lunch went." "How did it go, Marcus?" I asked. He looked around the table one more time, seeing 5 men who'd faced real danger and emerged stronger. Men who understood brotherhood, loyalty, and sacrifice. Men who wouldn't be dismissed or discounted. "Educational," he said quietly. The house felt different when I got home that evening. Everything looked the same. Jessica's coffee mug still sat in the sink from breakfast. Her romance novel lay open on the end table. The throw pillows were arranged exactly how she liked them. But something fundamental had shifted. Jessica was in the kitchen making dinner, humming softly while she stirred pasta sauce. The domestic scene felt surreal after the afternoon's confrontation with Marcus. "How was lunch with the guys?" she asked without turning around. "Productive. We had a good conversation about accountability." She nodded absently. "That's nice, honey. Mike called about an hour ago. Said you left your jacket at the restaurant." "I hadn't left a jacket anywhere," which meant Mike was giving me a heads up. What did he say exactly? Just that you might want to call him back. Oh, and Marcus Chun from Morrison Financial called the office looking for you. Something about investment opportunities. My blood went cold. Marcus was making contact, but why through my work? Jessica continued stirring sauce like she hadn't just delivered a bombshell. Marcus Chin called me at work? Around 3 o'clock. Your assistant said he seemed urgent, wanted to set up a meeting. Do you know him? This wasn't part of the plan. Marcus was supposed to end things quietly, tell Amanda the truth, and fade out of our lives. Instead, he was reaching out to me directly. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Need to talk. Private. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., Riverside Park. Come alone. Jessica glanced over her shoulder. Everything okay? You look pale. Just tired. Long day. She turned off the burner and faced me, really looking at me for the first time in months. Ryan, is something wrong? You've been different lately. Distant. The irony was staggering. Jessica, who'd been lying to my face for 8 months, was concerned about me seeming distant. Have I been distant? Or have you been distracted? Something flickered in her eyes. Fear, guilt, recognition. What do you mean? This was it. The moment I'd been dreading and preparing for simultaneously. I could continue the charade, wait for Marcus to make his move, hope everything played out according to plan. Or I could force the truth into the open right now. I mean your book club that meets at Romano's Italian Bistro. I mean the late meetings that coincide with Marcus Chin's business trips. I mean the phone call where he called me a broken soldier. Jessica's face went through the same progression I'd seen with Marcus. Confusion, fear, and finally resignation. She sat down heavily at the kitchen table. How long have you known? Since the phone call. But I've suspected longer. You changed, Jess. Started pulling away months ago. She stared at her hands. I never meant for it to happen. But it did happen. For 8 months, it happened. Ryan, you have to understand. I understand perfectly. You met someone who seemed easier than dealing with a husband who came home from war different. Someone who didn't have nightmares or jump at loud noises or need therapy to function. That's not fair, isn't it? Marcus told Amanda I was unstable, dangerous, that you needed saving from your damaged veteran husband. Did those words come from him or from you? Jessica's silence was answer enough. Both, she whispered finally. When things got serious between us, he asked about you, about our marriage. I told him about the hard times when you first came back, the nightmares, the distance, how scared I was sometimes. Scared of me, scared for you, scared you'd never be the man I married again. The honesty hit harder than any lie could have. Jessica hadn't just been unfaithful, she'd given up on us during my darkest period. When I needed her most, she decided I was too broken to fix. So you found someone who wasn't broken. I found someone who made me feel normal again, who didn't carry the weight of things I couldn't understand. I sat across from her at the table where we'd shared thousands of meals, made plans for our future, talked about having children someday. All of it felt like someone else's memories now. What do you want, Jessica? She looked up, tears streaming down her face. I want to not have hurt you. I want to take back the last 8 months. I want to be the woman who was strong enough to help you heal instead of running away when things got hard. But you can't take it back. No, I can't. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Marcus. Jessica doesn't know about today. Let's keep it that way. We need to talk about how this ends. I showed Jessica the message. He wants to meet tomorrow. Alone. She read it twice, her frown deepening. Ryan, Marcus can be. He doesn't like losing control of situations. Don't meet him alone. Are you warning me about your lover? I'm warning you about a man who's used to getting what he wants and doesn't handle rejection well. Is that a threat? It's concern. Whatever you said to him today, it scared him. Scared men do stupid things. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the yard where Jessica had planted flowers last spring. She'd been sleeping with Marcus then, coming home to plant roses while carrying another man's secrets. What happens now? She asked quietly. I meet with Marcus tomorrow. We finish this conversation. Then you decide what you want your life to look like. What do you mean? I mean you choose Jessica, him or me, our marriage or whatever you think you have with Marcus. But you choose honestly, knowing who we both really are. She wiped her eyes. And if I choose him, then you choose him. But you do it knowing that I'm not the broken soldier he told you I was. That I'm not the damaged veteran you convinced yourself you couldn't live with. Ryan, you do it knowing that I fought my way back from war, rebuilt myself into something stronger, and became a man who deserved better than lies. Jessica nodded slowly. What if I choose you? Then we figure out if there's anything left to rebuild. But first, I have to make sure Marcus understands the conversation is over. My phone rang. Mike's number. Marcus just called Amanda, he said without preamble. Told her he had to work late tomorrow. Wouldn't be home until after 10. She thinks he's planning something. I looked at Jessica, still sitting at our kitchen table, surrounded by the wreckage of 8 years of marriage. So am I said. I arrived at Riverside Park 15 minutes early, a habit ingrained by years of military training. The morning was crisp, joggers and dog walkers creating normal morning activity that would provide cover if things went sideways. Marcus was already there, sitting on a bench near the river, checking his phone obsessively. He looked like he hadn't slept much. Good. I approached from his blind spot, another old habit. He startled when I sat down beside him. You came alone, he said, scanning the park nervously. Like you asked. Though I'm curious why you wanted this meeting after yesterday's conversation seemed pretty clear. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Yesterday was theater. 5 guys intimidating 1 man in a restaurant. Very impressive. But this is real life, and real life has complications. Such as Jessica doesn't want to end things. I called her last night after you left Romano's. She cried, Ryan. Actual tears. She's not ready to give up what we have. My jaw clenched, but I kept my voice level. What exactly did you tell her? The truth. That her husband found out about us and threatened me with his military friends. That you're trying to force her to choose based on intimidation rather than love. The manipulation was masterful. Marcus had taken yesterday's confrontation and twisted it into proof that I was the unstable veteran he'd always claimed I was. And Jessica believed that. Jessica knows you, Ryan. She knows what you're capable of when you feel threatened. What am I capable of, Marcus? He leaned forward, his confidence returning as he sensed an advantage. Violence. Jessica told me about the nightmares, the times you'd wake up swinging, the way you'd check locks 3 times before bed, patrol the house at night like you were still in a war zone. Every word hit like a physical blow because they were true. Those first months home had been hell, for me and for Jessica. I had struggled with hypervigilance, with intrusive memories, with the jarring transition from combat to civilian life. She also told me about the time you grabbed her wrist when she startled you awake. Marcus continued. How terrified she looked. How you didn't even remember doing it. That memory was my worst nightmare. The moment I realized my trauma was bleeding into my marriage. I'd started therapy the next day, worked for months to control my responses, to separate past and present. Jessica had forgiven me, or so I thought. So you're saying Jessica stays with you because she's afraid of me? I'm saying Jessica stays with me because I make her feel safe. Something you apparently can't do anymore. A jogger passed our bench, earbuds in, oblivious to the conversation that was reshaping 2 marriages. I watched her disappear around the bend before responding. Here's what's going to happen, Marcus. You're going to end things with Jessica. Today. And you're going to tell Amanda the truth about your affair. Marcus laughed, actually laughed. Or what? You'll have another group therapy session with your veteran friends? File a complaint with my employer? Good luck proving anything. Or I'll destroy your life systematically and completely. His laughter died. Is that a threat? It's a promise. You see, Marcus, you made one critical error in your assessment of me. Which is, you assumed I was alone. A shadow fell across the bench. Marcus looked up to see Danny Martinez standing behind him, holding 2 coffee cups and wearing running gear. "Morning, Ryan. Thought you might need caffeine for this conversation." Danny handed me a cup and settled onto the grass nearby, stretching like any other runner taking a break. To a casual observer, we were 3 guys having a morning chat. Marcus's face went white. I said, "Come alone." "You did. But see, Marcus, SEALs don't operate alone. We work in teams." Carlos appeared on the jogging path, also in running clothes, checking his phone as he approached. "Hey guys, mind if I join you? Having some phone trouble." He sat on the other end of the bench, effectively boxing Marcus in. "This is harassment," Marcus whispered. "This is brotherhood," Danny corrected. Ryan called for backup. We answered. Jake emerged from behind a cluster of trees, walking a borrowed dog, Mike's German Shepherd, Zeus. He approached our bench with the casual air of a pet owner seeking conversation. "Beautiful morning for a walk," Jake said, letting Zeus sniff around the bench. "Mind if we join you? Zeus here loves meeting new people." Marcus stared at the dog, then at Jake, then at the 3 of us surrounding him. "What do you want?" "Same thing we wanted yesterday," Carlos said. "Respect. Accountability. Truth. You had your conversation yesterday. I listened. Now leave me alone." Danny leaned forward. "See, that's the problem. You didn't listen. You heard, but you didn't listen." "Because listening would mean accepting that actions have consequences," Jake added. Mike appeared on the path, also in running gear, checking his fitness watch. "Ryan, didn't expect to see you here. Mind if I cool down with you guys?" 5 Navy SEALs, all in casual morning exercise clothes, all appearing to coincidentally converge on the same park bench where Marcus Chun happened to be sitting. The choreography was perfect, natural, innocent, and absolutely terrifying if you understood what you were looking at. Marcus understood. "This is insane," he breathed. "You can't just mobilize your entire unit because your wife is cheating." "Actually, we can," Mike said calmly. "That's what brotherhood means. When one of us calls, we all answer." "And right now," Carlos continued, "Ryan needs us to help you understand something important." "Which is?" Marcus asked, his voice barely audible. I leaned closer, my voice quiet but clear. "That I'm not a broken soldier. I'm a Navy SEAL with 4 brothers who will move heaven and earth to protect me. Jessica may have told you I was damaged, but she forgot to mention what we're trained to do to people who threaten our family." Danny nodded. "See, Marcus, you've been operating under false assumptions. You thought Ryan was isolated, vulnerable, easy to dismiss. You thought wrong," Jake finished. Zeus chose that moment to sit directly in front of Marcus, fixing him with the steady stare that German shepherds have perfected over centuries of protecting their pack. Marcus looked around at the 5 men surrounding him, then down at the dog blocking his path. "What do you want me to do?" "The right thing," I said simply. "For once in your life, do the right thing." Marcus cracked within an hour. Amanda called me at 10:30 that morning, her voice shaking with a mixture of anger and relief. "He confessed to everything. The affair, the lies about you, even showed me the photos you took. He's packing a bag now." "Where's he going?" "His brother's place downtown. Says he needs time to think." She paused. "Ryan, there's something else. He told me what happened at the park this morning." My stomach dropped. "Amanda," he said. 5 Navy SEALs surrounded him like some kind of military operation. Said it was the most terrifying experience of his life. She laughed, actually laughed. I told him good. Maybe now he understands what real men look like. The relief was overwhelming. Marcus had broken, but he'd also painted us as the intimidating force rather than the reasonable one. That could work in our favor or against us, depending on what story he told elsewhere. "What about Jessica?" Amanda asked. "Haven't heard from her yet. She knows Marcus and I were meeting this morning. She will." Marcus called her from the driveway. I could hear him crying through the phone. Marcus Chun, investment banker and master manipulator, crying in his car while his marriage fell apart. There was justice in that image, even if I couldn't enjoy it fully. By noon, Jessica still hadn't called. I found myself checking my phone obsessively, waiting for her reaction to whatever Marcus had told her. The silence was worse than any conversation we could have had. Mike stopped by around 2 o'clock, ostensibly to return the jacket I'd never left at Romano's. Heard from the others, he said, settling into my kitchen chair. Marcus showed up at Morrison Financial this morning, requested emergency leave for personal issues. Word is he looked like hell. Any fallout from the park? Danny got a call from his boss asking about his morning run. Apparently, someone reported suspicious activity, multiple men converging on a single location. Danny showed his fitness app, proved he'd been running a regular route. Case closed. And Carlos? Clean. Jake too. We're all accounted for as normal citizens exercising our right to use public parks. The military precision with which we'd handled the situation was evident even in the aftermath. No laws broken, no threats made, no evidence of wrongdoing. Just 5 veterans who happened to be in the same place at the same time. What about Jessica? Mike asked. Radio silence. Marcus apparently called her from Amanda's driveway, but she hasn't reached out to me. Give her time. Her world just exploded. At 4:30, my phone finally rang. Jessica's number. We need to talk, she said without preamble. I'm coming home. She walked through the door 20 minutes later looking like she'd aged a decade in a single day. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her usually perfect makeup smeared, her hands shaking slightly. Marcus told me what happened at the park, she said, not bothering with pleasantries. Did he? 5 SEALs, Ryan? Really? You mobilized your entire unit to intimidate one man. I mobilized my brothers to have a conversation with a man who was disrespecting our service and destroying our marriages. He said you threatened him. I promised him consequences. There's a difference. Jessica sat down heavily on our couch, the same couch where we'd watched movies together, planned our future, talked about growing old together. Now it felt like furniture in a stranger's house. Marcus is gone, she said quietly. Left Amanda this morning, staying with his brother. He's talking about moving to another city, starting over. Good. Good. She looked at me incredulously. Ryan, you destroyed a man's life today. Marcus destroyed his own life the day he decided to cheat on his wife and lie about me. I just made sure he faced the consequences. By surrounding him with trained killers? The phrase hit me like a slap. Trained killers? Is that what you think we are? I think you're men who solve problems with violence for years, and old habits die hard. I stared at my wife, seeing clearly for perhaps the first time in our marriage. Jessica didn't just think I was broken, she thought I was dangerous. Not in the way Marcus had claimed, as a manipulation tactic, but genuinely. She was afraid of what I might do. Did we threaten Marcus? He said, did we lay a finger on him? Make any actual threats? Do anything other than talk? Jessica was quiet. Did we even raise our voices? No, but nothing. 5 veterans had a conversation with a man who was using our service records against us. That's all that happened. 5 veterans who showed up armed with military training and coordination to intimidate one civilian. 5 brothers who showed up to support their teammate when he needed them. We sat in silence, the gulf between us wider than it had ever been. Jessica saw my team as a threat, my brotherhood as a weapon. She would never understand that everything we'd done came from loyalty, honor, and love. What happens now? She asked finally. Now you decide what you want, Jessica. Not based on lies Marcus told you, not based on fear of what I might do, but based on who we actually are. And who are we? You're a woman who gave up on her marriage when things got difficult. I'm a man who fought his way back from war to build something worth saving. Ryan, you're a woman who chose to believe I was too broken to love. I'm a man who learned that being forged is stronger than being perfect. She wiped her eyes. I don't know if I can do this anymore. Then don't. Pack your things, file for divorce. Start over with someone who doesn't carry scars you can't understand. But don't pretend this is about what happened at the park or what my brothers did to support me. What's it about then? It's about the fact that you looked at a Navy SEAL who survived 3 combat tours and decided he wasn't worth fighting for. Jessica broke down completely then, sobbing into her hands with the weight of 8 months of lies and betrayal. I watched from across the room, feeling something die inside me that I hadn't even known was still alive. My phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. Marcus filed for divorce this afternoon. Thank you for giving me the strength to face the truth. At least one marriage was ending with honesty. I'm sorry, Jessica whispered through her tears. I'm so sorry, Ryan. So am I said and meant it. 6 months later, I stood in Amanda's kitchen helping her move boxes while her kids played in the backyard. The divorce had been finalized 3 weeks ago, and she was starting fresh in a smaller house across town. You don't have to help with this, she said, taping another box shut. You've done enough. Brothers help each other, I said simply. And that includes the family we choose. Amanda had become something unexpected, a genuine friend forged in the fire of shared betrayal. We'd supported each other through the legal proceedings, the division of assets, the painful process of explaining to children why Daddy wasn't coming home anymore. Jessica had moved out in January, taking only what she needed to start over. The divorce papers cited irreconcilable differences, which was true enough. We'd been incompatible in ways that 8 years of marriage couldn't bridge. She tried to reconcile twice in those first months, showing up at the house with tears and apologies. But both of us knew the truth. She would never stop seeing me as broken, and I would never stop knowing she'd abandoned me when I needed her most. Any word from Marcus? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Radio silence since March. His lawyer says he's working in Chicago now, some investment firm. Clean slate, fresh start, all that. Marcus had gotten his wish, a new life away from the consequences of his choices. But running to Chicago wouldn't change who he was or what he'd done. Geography doesn't cure character flaws. Do you miss him? The question slipped out before I could stop it. Amanda considered this seriously. I miss who I thought he was. The man I married. The father I thought my children had. But the real Marcus? The one who could lie to my face for 8 months while I worked double shifts to support his lifestyle. She shook her head. I don't miss him at all. That evening, I met my team at Murphy's Pub for our monthly dinner. It had become a tradition since the divorce. 5 brothers maintaining the bonds that had carried us through war and would carry us through whatever came next. How's the new job? Danny asked, raising his beer. I'd left my old position in March, taking a role with a veterans counseling center, helping other former military members navigate the transition to civilian life, rebuild relationships, find purpose beyond the uniform. Good. Hard sometimes, but good. Yesterday, I worked with a Marine who's been having nightmares since his last deployment. Reminded me of myself 3 years ago. You help him? Carlos asked. I told him what Mike told me when I was struggling, that being forged is different from being broken, that the fire that changes us doesn't have to destroy us. Jake nodded. How many guys you working with now? 15 regulars, maybe 20 drop-ins each month. Most of them are dealing with the same things I dealt with, hypervigilance, relationship issues, feeling like civilians don't understand what we've been through. Do their wives understand? Mike asked quietly. It was the question we all carried. How do you explain to someone who's never been in combat what it means to watch your brothers die? How do you share the weight of decisions made in seconds that haunt you for years? Some do. The strong ones. The ones who choose to learn instead of running when things get difficult. But others. I shrugged. Others decide we're too damaged to love. Their loss, Danny said firmly. Absolutely, Carlos agreed. Any woman who can't handle a warrior wasn't worthy of one in the first place. We drank in comfortable silence. 5 men who'd seen the worst of humanity and somehow found a way to keep believing in the best of it. Speaking of warriors, Mike said, Amanda's doing well. Kids are adjusting. She's got that new job at the children's hospital, seems happy. She is happy. Happier than she ever was with Marcus. And you? Jake asked. You happy? I thought about it honestly. Was I happy? I was content, purposeful, surrounded by brothers who understood me completely. I had meaningful work helping other veterans rebuild their lives. I'd learned to trust again, love again, even if it wasn't in the way I'd expected. I'm whole, I said finally. For the first time in years, I'm whole. As we prepared to leave, my phone buzzed with a message from one of my clients, a young Army sergeant struggling with his marriage. His wife had just told him she was proud of his service, grateful for his sacrifice, committed to helping him heal instead of running from his wounds. Good news, Mike asked, noticing my smile. The best kind. Sometimes love wins. Walking to my truck, I thought about the lesson I'd learned from the wreckage of my marriage with Jessica. Some people see scars and think broken. Others see scars and think survivor. The difference isn't in the scars themselves. It's in the eyes looking at them. Marcus had called me a broken soldier, and for a moment, Jessica had believed him. But my brothers saw something different. They saw a warrior who'd been tested and proven, forged in fire, and emerged stronger. The truth is, we all carry scars. Veterans carry them from war, but civilians carry them too, from loss, betrayal, disappointment, fear. The question isn't whether we'll be wounded in this life. The question is what we'll do with our wounds. Some people let their scars make them bitter, isolated, afraid to trust or love again. Others let their scars become proof of their strength, evidence that they can survive anything and still choose hope. Jessica chose fear. Marcus chose selfishness. But Amanda chose courage, and my brothers chose loyalty, and I chose to believe that even broken soldiers can build something beautiful from the pieces. That's the real victory. Not revenge against those who wronged us, but the choice to become something better because of what we've survived. This story has taken us through betrayal, confrontation, and ultimately redemption. But here's the question that matters most. What would you have done in Ryan's position? When someone calls you broken, when the person you love most believes them, how do you choose to respond? Let us know in the comments where you're watching from and what this story meant to you. Your engagement helps us bring you more intense tales of betrayal, brotherhood, and the quiet strength that comes from surviving life's deepest wounds. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more gripping tales of revenge, redemption, and the unbreakable bonds that help us survive our darkest moments. We've got another thriller coming next week that will leave you questioning everything you think you know about loyalty and justice. Until then, remember, you're not broken. You're forged. And sometimes, that makes all the difference. Take care of yourselves and each other. See you in the next story.